Hello and welcome. As we begin, before we dive into success, money, goals, or personal growth, I want to ask you a quiet but powerful question. Who really knows you? Not who follows you, not who likes your posts, not who replies with emojis, but who truly knows you. Your fears, your silence, your unspoken struggles, and the parts of you that never make it into conversation. We live in a world more connected than ever, yet more emotionally distant than at any point in history. You can message someone instantly across the planet, but still feel completely alone sitting next to them. And that raises a difficult truth most people avoid. Relationships don't fail because we stop caring. They fail because we never learned how to truly connect. No one teaches us this. We are taught how to work, how to compete, how to achieve, how to protect ourselves. But very few of us are taught how to listen without preparing a reply, how to speak without defending our ego, how to love without trying to control. So we build relationships the same way we build walls. Carefully, defensively, and always prepared to retreat. Over time, conversations become shallow. Trust becomes conditional, and connection becomes fragile. And one day, without a dramatic argument or a clear ending, the relationship simply fades. Not because of betrayal, not because of hatred, but because of neglect. Here is something rarely said out loud. Strong relationships are not built by luck. They are built by intention. They are built in small moments. In how you respond when you're tired, in how you listen when you disagree, in how you show up when it's inconvenient. Real connection is not about finding the right people. It's about becoming the kind of person others feel safe being real with. And that is not easy. It requires patience in a fast world, presence in a distracted world, and emotional courage in a world that rewards emotional armor. But the reward is priceless, because when relationships are strong, life becomes lighter. Challenges feel manageable. Failures don't feel fatal. And success becomes meaningful, because you have someone to share it with. In this video, we are going to slow things down. No cliches, no surface-level advice, no motivational noise. Instead, we will walk through 9 essential steps that quietly but powerfully shape strong, lasting relationships. With others, and just as importantly, with yourself. Not theory, not psychology jargon, but principles rooted in human experience. If you stay with me until the end, you may not only understand relationships better, you may begin to experience them differently. So take a breath. Let the noise fade for a moment. And when you're ready, we'll begin with the first step. Step 1. Learn to be fully present. Most relationships don't break because of arguments. They break because of absence. Not physical absence, but emotional absence. You can sit across from someone at the same table, hear their voice, see their face, and still not be there. Your body is present, but your mind is elsewhere. Thinking about work, scrolling through memories, preparing your next response, or quietly waiting for your turn to speak. And the other person feels it. They may not be able to explain it, but they sense the distance. Because human beings are wired to feel attention. We feel when someone is truly with us, and we feel it even more strongly when they are not. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Presence is the foundation of every strong relationship. Without it, nothing else works. You can have good intentions. You can say the right words. You can even show up consistently. But if you are not present, the connection will always feel incomplete. Being present is not about eye contact alone. It is not about silence. It is not about putting your phone away. Though that helps. Presence is about giving someone your full awareness, without trying to control the moment. It means listening without planning a reply. It means hearing emotions, not just words. It means allowing pauses without rushing to fill them. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond. They listen with their ego quietly active. Ready to correct, ready to defend, ready to explain. But when you listen like that, the other person feels evaluated, not understood. Strong relationships grow when people feel safe enough to speak without being judged, and heard without being rushed. And safety begins with presence. This is why presence feels rare today. We live in a world that rewards speed, multitasking, and constant stimulation. Being fully present feels inefficient, unproductive, almost uncomfortable. But relationships are not built on efficiency. They are built on attention. Think about the people you trust most in your life. Chances are they are not the loudest, not the smartest, not the most impressive. They are the ones who made you feel seen. They didn't interrupt your story. They didn't minimize your feelings. They didn't try to fix you immediately. They stayed. Presence communicates something powerful without words. You matter enough for me to slow down. And when someone feels that, walls soften, defenses lower, honesty becomes possible. This step is simple, but not easy. Because to be present with others, you must first be willing to face yourself, your impatience, your discomfort with silence, your need to be interesting, right, or in control. Presence asks you to let go of performance and choose connection instead. Start small. The next time someone speaks to you, don't interrupt. Don't finish their sentence. Don't mentally rehearse your reply. Just listen. Notice their tone, their pace, what they hesitate to say. Those quiet details are where real connection begins. Strong relationships are not built through grand gestures. They are built in moments like these. Moments when you decide to be fully here. Because before trust, before vulnerability, before love, there must be presence. Step 2. Build trust. Through consistency. Trust is not built through words. It is built through patterns. Most people think trust is something you earn by making promises. But in reality, trust grows when promises become unnecessary. Because the strongest trust is quiet. It doesn't need reassurance. It doesn't ask for proof. It simply exists. Here is a truth many people learn too late. Trust is not destroyed by one big mistake. It is eroded by many small inconsistencies. You say you will call, but you don't. You say you care, but your actions feel distant. You say anytime, but disappear when it's inconvenient. None of these moments seem dramatic, but over time, they leave a residue. And that residue becomes doubt. Consistency is what turns intention into reliability. It's how people learn what to expect from you, emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally. Strong relationships are not built on intensity. They are built on predictability, not boring predictability, but emotional steadiness. When someone knows how you will respond, they relax. They don't have to walk on eggshells. They don't have to guess your mood. They don't have to wonder where they stand. And that sense of safety is rare. Many people confuse passion with commitment. They show up strongly when emotions are high, then disappear when feelings settle. But real trust is built in ordinary moments. Showing up when nothing exciting is happening. Keeping your word when no one is watching. Responding with the same respect. Whether you're tired or energized, winning or struggling. This doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest and stable. If you can't show up, say so. If you're overwhelmed, communicate it. If you make a mistake, own it quickly. Consistency doesn't mean never failing. It means failing in ways that don't confuse people. Because nothing damages trust faster than emotional unpredictability. Today, you care deeply. Tomorrow, you withdraw. Today, you listen. Tomorrow, you dismiss. People can handle mistakes, but they struggle with uncertainty. And when trust weakens, people begin to protect themselves. They share less. expect less, invest less, not because they stopped caring, but because they no longer feel safe relying on you. This is where many relationships quietly decline, not through conflict, but through disappointment that is never discussed. Consistency, on the other hand, sends a powerful message. You can depend on me, even when it's inconvenient. And when someone feels that, they open up naturally. Trust deepens not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Moment by moment, choice by choice. If you want stronger relationships, don't focus on being impressive. Focus on being reliable. Do what you say you'll do. Be who you say you are. And let time do the rest. Because trust is not built overnight. But once it's built, it becomes the strongest foundation a relationship can have. Step 3. Communicate with honesty and respect. Most relationship problems are not caused by a lack of communication. They are caused by unclear, avoided, or distorted communication. People talk all the time, but real communication is rare. Because speaking is easy. Being honest is not. Many people don't say what they feel. They hint, they imply. They expect others to just know. And when those expectations aren't met, resentment quietly grows. Here is a truth that changes everything. Unspoken expectations are the fastest way to damage a relationship. Not because expectations are wrong, but because silence turns them into silent demands. Honest communication does not mean saying everything that comes to mind. It means saying what matters, with intention and respect. Strong relationships are not built on emotional outbursts. They are built on clear, calm expression. This requires courage, because honesty risks discomfort. It risks disagreement. It risks being misunderstood. So many people choose peace over truth, not realizing that suppressed truth eventually destroys peace. Respectful honesty means speaking from your experience, not from accusation. Not, you never listen, but I feel unheard when I'm interrupted. Not, you don't care, but I feel distant when we don't talk. This shift may seem small, but it changes the entire tone of a conversation. It turns blame into vulnerability, and vulnerability invites connection. Respect is not just about words. It's about timing, tone, and intention. Saying the right thing at the wrong moment can feel like an attack. Strong communicators choose the moment carefully. They don't bring heavy emotions into crowded spaces. They don't weaponize honesty during arguments. They speak to build understanding, not to win. And equally important, they listen with the same respect they expect. Honest communication is a two-way responsibility. If you want openness, you must be safe to be open with. That means not dismissing feelings you don't understand, not mocking vulnerability, not using someone's honesty against them later. Nothing shuts people down faster than realizing their truth will be punished. This is why trust and communication are inseparable. When people feel safe, they speak freely. When they don't, they withdraw. And withdrawal is far more damaging than conflict. Silence creates stories. Stories create assumptions. Assumptions create distance. But honest, respectful communication keeps reality clear. It doesn't guarantee agreement, but it preserves connection. Strong relationships are not free of difficult conversations. They are built through them. Each honest exchange, handled with care, adds depth, adds understanding, adds resilience. If you want stronger relationships, don't avoid difficult conversations. Learn to have them well. Speak with clarity. Listen with humility. And let honesty become a bridge, not a weapon. Step 4. Practice empathy before judgment. Most conflicts don't begin with cruelty. They begin with misunderstanding. Two people experience the same moment and walk away with completely different emotions. One feels ignored, the other feels overwhelmed. One feels criticized, the other feels unheard. And instead of trying to understand the difference, we rush to judgment. Here is the problem. Judgment closes doors. Empathy opens them. Empathy is not agreement. It is not approval. It is not saying, "You're right." Empathy is saying, "I see how this feels for you, even if I see it differently." And that distinction matters. Most people don't want to be proven right. They want to be understood. When empathy is missing, conversations turn into battles of perspective. Each person defends their version of the truth, while connection quietly disappears. Empathy shifts the focus from who is right to what is being felt. And feelings, unlike opinions, cannot be argued away. You don't build strong relationships by correcting emotions. You build them by acknowledging them. This is where many people struggle. Because empathy requires slowing down your own reaction. It asks you to pause your story and step into someone else's. That pause feels uncomfortable. Your mind wants to respond, to explain, to defend. But empathy begins when you resist that impulse. It sounds like this. "I didn't realize it felt that way for you." That makes sense, given what you're dealing with. "I can see why that hurt." These sentences don't surrender your position. They signal respect. And respect is the soil where understanding grows. Without empathy, people feel unseen. And when people feel unseen, they protect themselves, often through withdrawal, anger, or silence. Empathy disarms that protection. It tells the other person, "You don't have to fight to be heard." This is especially important during conflict. In moments of tension, the instinct is to win. But relationships are not competitions. There is no victory in being right if the connection is lost. Empathy allows both people to stand on the same side of the problem. Instead of me versus you, it becomes us versus the issue. That shift changes everything. Practicing empathy doesn't mean ignoring your needs. It means acknowledging theirs first. Because once someone feels understood, they are far more open to understanding you in return. Strong relationships are built by people who ask before judging, "What might this feel like for them?" That question alone can prevent countless misunderstandings. Empathy is not dramatic. It's quiet. It shows up in patience, in tone, in the willingness to listen a little longer before responding. And over time, it creates a relationship where people feel safe being human, imperfect, emotional, and real. Step 5. Set healthy boundaries without guilt. Many relationships don't fail because people care too little. They fail because people give too much for too long without clarity. At first, it looks like generosity, patience, compromise. But over time, something changes. Energy turns into exhaustion. Kindness turns into resentment. And connection begins to feel like obligation. Here is a truth that many people struggle to accept. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines for respect. Without boundaries, relationships slowly become unbalanced. One person gives, the other adjusts, and neither talks about it until the giver feels drained and the receiver feels confused. Healthy boundaries protect relationships from silent damage. They clarify what is acceptable, what is not, and what requires conversation. And most importantly, they protect you from abandoning yourself in order to keep someone else comfortable. This is where guilt enters. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear disappointing others. They say yes when they mean no. They stay silent when they feel hurt. They tolerate behavior that quietly erodes their self-respect, not because they are weak, but because they are afraid of conflict. But unspoken boundaries don't disappear. They turn into frustration, and frustration always finds a way out, through distance, coldness, or sudden anger. Boundaries are not about control. They are about self-clarity. They say, "This is how I take care of myself, so I can show up better for you." When you communicate a boundary clearly and calmly, you give the other person a chance to respond with respect. Without that clarity, they are left guessing. And guessing creates mistakes. That could have been avoided. Healthy boundaries are communicated early, not after resentment builds. They are stated without blame and without apology. Not, "I'm sorry, but this bothers me." But "this doesn't work for me." That shift matters because you are not asking for permission to have needs. You are simply stating them. Strong relationships are not built on self-sacrifice alone. They are built on mutual care. And mutual care requires honesty. About limits. Boundaries also reveal something important. Who respects them, who ignores them, and who challenges them. That information is valuable. People who value the relationship will adjust. Those who don't will resist. Either way, you gain clarity, and clarity strengthens relationships, even when it leads to difficult decisions. When boundaries are respected, trust deepens, because both people know they can be themselves without fear of being depleted or controlled. Setting boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, but over time, it creates relationships that are calmer, healthier, and far more sustainable. Because the strongest relationships are not the ones where people give endlessly. They are the ones where people give freely, without losing themselves. Step 6. Handle conflict with maturity. Conflict is not the problem. Avoidance is. Every meaningful relationship will experience tension, different perspectives, different needs, different emotional rhythms. The difference between strong relationships and fragile ones is not the absence of conflict, but how conflict is handled. Many people treat conflict like a threat. They raise their voice. They shut down. They attack, withdraw, or keep score. Because conflict triggers fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing control. Fear of being hurt again. But mature relationships view conflict differently. They see it as information. Information about unmet needs, unspoken expectations, emotional wounds that need attention. When conflict arises, most people focus on what is being said. Mature communicators focus on why. Why does this matter to you? Why does this feel personal? Why now? This shift transforms arguments into conversations. Handling conflict with maturity means slowing the moment down instead of escalating it. It means choosing tone over volume, curiosity over accusation, understanding over victory. Because winning an argument often means losing connection. Maturity shows up in restraint, in not interrupting, in not bringing up old mistakes, in not using absolutes like always and never. Those words don't clarify. They corner. And when people feel cornered, they defend themselves instead of listening. A mature response doesn't deny your feelings. It expresses them without aggression. Not, "You're impossible to talk to," but "I feel frustrated because I don't feel heard." This language invites dialogue. It says, "I'm open to understanding. Are you?" Another key aspect of mature conflict is knowing when to pause. Not every conversation should be finished immediately. If emotions are high, taking space is not avoidance. It's regulation. The difference lies in intention. Avoidance ignores the issue. Mature space prepares you to address it better. It sounds like, "I need some time to calm down. Let's talk about this later." And then actually returning to the conversation. That follow-through matters. Unresolved conflict lingers. It changes how people interact. It creates emotional distance, even when nothing is said. Mature relationships don't rush resolution. They prioritize clarity. They understand that connection cannot exist without emotional safety, and emotional safety is built when people know they can disagree without being attacked. Handled well, conflict doesn't weaken relationships. It strengthens them, because each respectful resolution reinforces trust. It proves that the relationship can survive discomfort. And over time, that knowledge creates resilience. Strong relationships are not defined by how well people agree, but by how well they stay connected. When they don't. Step 7. Show appreciation consistently. Most relationships don't end suddenly. They slowly fade into silence and assumption. People assume the other person knows they care. They assume effort is noticed. They assume love doesn't need to be expressed once it's established. But assumption is dangerous, because what is not expressed often feels absent. Here is a truth many people overlook. Feeling appreciated is a basic human need, not a luxury. No matter how strong a relationship is, no one thrives on being taken for granted. Over time, effort without appreciation turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion eventually turns into emotional distance. Appreciation is not about grand gestures. It's about recognition, noticing what someone does, especially the things they do quietly, without asking for praise. Listening when you're tired, showing up when it's inconvenient, staying patient when emotions are heavy. These moments often go unseen, but they matter the most. Strong relationships are built by people who say thank you before resentment has a chance to grow. Appreciation creates emotional safety. It tells the other person, I see you, I value you, your effort matters. And when people feel valued, they give more, not out of obligation, but out of desire. Consistency is key. Occasional praise cannot replace daily recognition. Saying, I appreciate you once in a while, doesn't carry the same weight as regularly acknowledging effort in real time. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as, I noticed you tried. Thank you for being patient with me. I know that wasn't easy. These words cost nothing, but they prevent emotional withdrawal. Many people believe appreciation will make others complacent, that it will reduce effort. In reality, the opposite is true. People who feel appreciated are more engaged, more open, and more willing to invest emotionally. Appreciation also keeps relationships grounded in reality. It reminds both people that effort is being made, even when things aren't perfect, because no relationship is perfect. There will be missed moments, misunderstandings, unmet expectations. Appreciation softens those edges. It shifts focus from what's lacking to what's present. And that shift changes how people feel about staying. Strong relationships don't rely on constant intensity. They rely on ongoing gratitude, not forced positivity, not blind optimism, but genuine recognition of effort, growth, and care. When appreciation becomes part of the relationship's rhythm, connection deepens naturally. People feel seen, they feel valued, and they feel motivated to continue showing up. Because at the end of the day, most people aren't asking for perfection. They're asking to know that what they give is noticed. Step 8. Grow together, not apart. People change. That is not the problem. Refusing to grow together is. Many relationships begin with alignment. Shared interests, shared goals, shared energy. But time moves forward. Life applies pressure. Responsibilities increase. Dreams evolve. And slowly, without intention, two people can begin walking in parallel directions, still close, still familiar, but no longer truly connected. Here is a truth that challenges comfort. Strong relationships require continuous adjustment, not static agreement. Growth changes needs, changes priorities, changes how people see themselves. When one person grows and the other resists change, tension appears. Not because growth is wrong, but because it creates distance. That goes unaddressed. Growing together doesn't mean having identical goals. It means maintaining curiosity about who the other person is becoming. Asking questions like, what matters to you now? How have your priorities shifted? What are you working toward? These questions keep relationships alive. Without them, people rely on outdated versions of each other. They assume the other person is the same, until conflict reveals otherwise. Strong relationships make room for evolution. They don't cling to old dynamics, out of fear. They allow roles to shift, energy to change, dreams to expand or redirect. This requires humility, letting go of expectations, based on the past, accepting that growth may challenge, comfort and familiarity. But growth does not have to divide. When approached with openness, it strengthens connection. Supporting someone's growth does not mean losing yourself. It means choosing partnership over possession. It means celebrating progress, even when it changes the relationship's shape. Growing together also requires honesty about direction. Avoiding these conversations doesn't preserve harmony. It delays clarity. And delayed clarity often leads to resentment. Strong relationships check in. They talk about goals, fears, uncertainties, not once but regularly, because alignment is not permanent. It's maintained. When people grow together, they become allies in each other's development. They don't compete. They don't compare. They don't hold each other back. They adapt. And adaptation is what keeps connection alive. As life evolves, relationships that grow together don't feel stagnant. They feel dynamic, flexible, resilient, because they are built, not on who people used to be, but on a shared commitment to who they are becoming. Step 9. Take responsibility for your role. Every relationship has two stories: what the other person did and how you responded. Most people focus on the first because it feels easier. Blame offers relief. Responsibility offers growth. And growth is uncomfortable. Here is the truth that defines mature relationships. You cannot control others, but you are always responsible for yourself. Strong relationships are built by people who are willing to examine their own patterns, how they react under stress, how they communicate when hurt, how they withdraw, avoid, or overcompensate. Responsibility begins with awareness. Noticing recurring behaviors, noticing emotional triggers, noticing how past experiences shape present reactions. Without this awareness, people repeat the same conflicts with different faces. Taking responsibility does not mean accepting blame for everything. It means owning your contribution. Even when the situation is complex, it means asking, how did I show up in this moment? What could I have done differently? What pattern am I repeating? These questions are not self-punishment. They are self-leadership. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for others to change first. You become proactive. You apologize without excuses. You adjust behaviors that cause harm. You communicate needs instead of expecting mind reading. This shifts the dynamic, because responsibility is contagious. When one person shows emotional maturity, it often invites the same from the other. Not always immediately, but over time. Relationships break down when both people wait for the other to move first. Strong relationships move forward because at least one person chooses accountability. Responsibility also includes knowing when to let go. Not every relationship can grow, no matter how much effort you invest. Taking responsibility means recognizing when staying costs you your well-being. Choosing yourself is not failure. It is wisdom. Strong relationships are built, not by perfect people, but by people who are willing to learn from their mistakes. People who reflect instead of react, who repair instead of retreat, who choose growth over ego. At the end of the day, relationships are mirrors. They reflect who we are, how we love, and how we handle discomfort. When you take responsibility for your role, you don't just improve relationships. You become someone capable of building strong ones. As we come to the end of this conversation, I want you to pause for a moment. Not to remember every step, not to analyze what you did right or wrong, but to reflect. Because strong relationships are not built by memorizing principles. They are built by practicing awareness. If there is one thing to take away from everything you've heard, it is this. Relationships don't thrive on intensity. They thrive on intention, on presence instead of distraction, on consistency instead of promises, on honesty instead of silence, on empathy instead of judgment, on boundaries instead of resentment, on maturity instead of ego, on appreciation instead of assumption, on growth instead of stagnation, and on responsibility instead of blame. None of these steps are dramatic. None of them are complicated. But together, they shape the emotional quality of a life. Because at the end of the day, success means very little if there is no one you feel connected to. And loneliness doesn't always come from being alone. It often comes from being surrounded by people while feeling unseen. Strong relationships don't just improve your life, they stabilize it. They give you somewhere to rest emotionally, someone to grow with, someone who knows who you are when the world isn't watching. But here's the part most people miss. You don't build strong relationships by changing others. You build them by becoming someone safe to connect with, someone who listens, someone who shows up, someone who communicates clearly, someone who takes responsibility. That work begins quietly, in daily choices, in small moments, in how you respond when no one is keeping score. So don't rush. Pick one step. Practice it. Let it become part of how you move through the world. Because the quality of your relationships will always reflect the quality of your inner life. If this message resonated with you, if it gave you something to reflect on, or helped you see relationships a little differently, consider subscribing to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos, where we slow things down, go deeper, and explore what it really means to live with clarity, strength, and purpose. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your relationships, because in the end, they are what make everything else meaningful.